We're shaking, people. Back with another reaction, back with some more hardcore, and indeed we're back with some more Ruffneck. I've done a couple reactions to Ruffneck records. I don't think I've actually reacted to a PVK tune yet, but that's what I'm going to do here. There are a couple releases that came at the beginning of this recent resurgence of the label. One is from 2018, this is from 2019. The first one is 52X, this is 53X. So on both of these releases, I say both, on both of these releases, Van Kerkhoven appears under a number of different aliases that he's used over the years, going back to the early 90s. We're going to listen to a tune on, again, Ruffneck 53X, under his Wedlock alias called Mirrors. And I really like this tune, definitely my favorite on this record. And indeed, the other record I just showed you, which is the release is 20 Bullets to Comply. I love all three tunes sort of equally. I certainly am really, really fond of all three. On this one, the other two I do like. I'm going to put them in this sort of good, not great category, but I absolutely had to get this release because this tune is maybe my favorite from either of the two releases, combined. So sometimes that happens where, a track is such a standout that it's ultimately irrelevant what the other tracks are like. It's like I have to get it for that one alone. And that's what we were dealing with here, at least for my brain. So we're going to listen to, first up, before I say that, let's look at the sweet logo. Always love that. The sort of napalm theme of this one, burning it up. So yeah, we're going to listen to a tune called Mirrors under his Wedlock alias. Two things stand out to me. One, there's really good use of samples in this one. Al Pacino from Any Given Sunday. There's a guy, I really enjoy his Discogs reviews, plural. If you go look at the Discogs page for this record, you'll see that he wrote a really great review, and he basically said the same thing, that the real standout track here is Mirrors. I fully agree. And indeed, that brings me to my second point, which is, it's funny, I think of Ruffneck, and I don't have a whole bunch of the original run of Ruffnecks. I have a few of them, and then I've tried to get at least a few of the more recent emergents. But when I think of his tunes, and again, I know part of what they're doing with these is that under different aliases, he kind of had different styles. I get that. I see people talking about that in Discogs, like whether, it's Ectomorph tune, or it's a Ruffneck tune, or it's a Night Vision tune. But it's interesting. I think of Ruffneck's tunes, I do think of a lot of things. I think of drum and bass rhythms, I think of reggae samples, I think of that classic, wicked, Alpha Juno sort of synths, but I don't necessarily think of crazy acid work. Sure, I'm guessing many of you can immediately point to this tune or that tune. I get it, but again, there are other hardcore producers where I associate acid work with their tunes more notably. This tune has one of the meanest, most wicked, and lovely acid sections of any Ruffneck tune I can remember. So again, someone feel free to point out, oh, but this other track from back in the day, or this other one more recently, whatever. I'd love to hear more, but basically, this track set my brain on fire, in particular for the acid segment, in addition to the great sampling of Pacino. But yeah, like I said, it's sort of surprising to me in the sense that when I think of his tunes, that's not one of the elements that immediately stands out. So yeah, I was really excited to hear that. So here we go. I apologize for all the ado. Wait a minute, there's a little fluff ball on the stylus. That will not stand. Okay. So Mirrors by Wedlock. 2019, by the way. Delight to my brain. Atmospheric opening, right?
professional lives. All comes down to today. We're in hell right now. Believe me. We can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell.
Love the synth riff.
We can climb out of hell.
Okay, so before we do this insane and just brilliant acid section, I do want to comment in particular on the sample in this part, which is different than in the part that we just heard and that we'll sort of hear snippets of in later parts of the track. I really do like using this, and like, you know, I'm not going to assume too much, but it just feels like it's, again, Ruffneck using samples to express this idea that, like, hey, you know, I've gone through different phases and I've been through a lot and it's been many years and whatever, and, you know, maybe I haven't always made the best choices and whatever, but I'm fucking here, we're going to save the scene and so on. Again, it just feels like this sample operates on different levels, because, again, it's like, it's from the original source material context of, like, you know, a football team, like, you know, really up against it, but the way the samples appear here as he was coming back to making like artcore again, it just has this feel that like it's a sample operating on different levels. I mentioned before when I did a reaction to his tune, who was it with? Erwin von Kahn, right? That, because it's what is it? What is the name they use? Nosferatu, right? But I mentioned in that one the artcore DNA. It felt like the sample in that track was operating on multiple levels. I feel the same here. Oh, and by the way, the acid.
I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I've faced off anyone who's ever loved me, and lately, I can't even stand the face I see in a mirror.
That sample waits a little longer to come in than you might think. So by the time you get to the word light, it's already kicking back into the next measure, rather than, I think, in a lot of cases you'll be like, into the light, brief pause, boom. I like the way we arranged it there. I like the way that acid riff ended.
All comes down to today. We're in hell right now. Believe me. We can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell.
Bass rhythms mixing with that, the synth riff, lovely bass line, sort of stagnated, syncopated groove at this point.
I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me, and lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror.
I like again, the use of that sample in the breakdown leading into the outro. I like the way the kick and the bass sort of like rose from the ashes rather than just dropping in like proper.
I look around, I see these young Traces, and I think we can fight our way back into the light.
Yeah, like I said, that track alone made that record a necessity for me to buy. I don't have all of the Ruffneck since he's come back, and since the label started to put out vinyl again in this sort of old school style. But I do have a couple, and as I mentioned, I do have a few of the old ones too. So I think my Ruffneck collection now numbers something like 6 or 7. Not nearly enough, but ultimately, as I said, I am happy that I have some of the old school flavor. I have some of the stuff that he's made since he came back, and I really do think, you know, a couple of the records that he's put out since coming back really do capture that old style that the label and his works under different names had. I did see someone say that the Ectomorph tune on this record, they didn't think it was bad, but they didn't think it was really in the Ectomorph style, whereas they said the other two, the Wedlock tune and the, what is it, a Night Vision tune? No, it's a Despair tune. Yeah, but they were saying like those fit, or maybe it's the 20 Bullets to Comply. But someone was saying like, oh, you know, I'm not sure the way he did this tune is exactly the way that, like, the style of that name. But I get it, you know, he's used so many different aliases over the years. I feel like at some point, you know, there's going to be a little cross-pollination in his brain. But ultimately, like I said, massive respect. You know, one of the old school, like early hardcore sounds in the old school days, and, you know, still making it today, still putting out vinyl. So a lot of respect. As I said, I'm not sure the other two tracks on this record are quite as good. I don't think they're bad by any means, but I just wouldn't put them in the same category as this one. But let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you like one of the other ones on this record better. Let me know if you'd really like to see a reaction to one of the tracks on 20 Bullets to Comply. I think I'm going to do one of those soon, but that would still leave 2 that I won't have done. So, like I said, give me a shout if any of the tunes on these 2 records, or I mentioned before, I did a reaction to the Nosferatu record on Ruffneck, like when that was still like PVK and what is it, Con again. But then like later I think it was just Con. But bottom line, I have a few of the old school ones as well. So like I said, just go to my Discogs, Mr. Tom Servo collection. It's publicly visible. You can go to my hardcore folder or any other folder, and let me know if you have a particular request. Any other suggestions are also appreciated. Other than that, have a good day, have a good night. I'll see you next time. Peace.